Folks, welcome to the show. It's the Crack House Podcast. My name's Mike O'Sullivan. Joining me today, lifelong friend. We've known each other over 40 years. We grew up right down the block from each other. We're going to be talking about the old neighborhood. Very smart dude. We're going to get into like the whole Robin Hood stock thing, hopefully, because he has a lot of expertise with that. Just a real smart guy. Welcome to the show, my friend Chris Muskie Muskrat Ho Muscalino. What's up, brother?
What's up, Big Mike? Glad to see you, man. Lifelong friend, like Mike said. So I'm glad to be aboard. Help get this podcast going. Hope it blows up for you. I'm ready to rock and roll, man.
Yeah, you look good, man. You got like the whole bunker gear. You're in like the bunker right now, man. You got like bunker gear on and shit. You're ready to rock. We both fought COVID. You and I have both had it. I mean, how are you feeling?
I have some lingering effects. I mean, to be honest with you, I was always very cautious of it because I've got high blood pressure and I've got asthma.
Yeah.
So, initially when it came out, you hear all these stories about you get it and you're dead, you can't breathe, you're on a ventilator. It took me about a month to recover. I have still some lingering effects. I mean, you might hear it during the conversation, coughing a little bit, but just initially a lot of body aches, like a really bad version of the flu, a bad cough at some point. Luckily enough, I didn't have any problems breathing. And that was pretty much it. It took me about a month to recover. Still feel a little bit, lingering effects, you're like really tired and stuff at times. And, in terms of like, speaking, I'm on the phone all day at one of my jobs. And, when you're on the phone and constantly talking, you get coughing, you coughing fits. But other than that, I feel okay.
Yeah, I've kind of like, I felt I've been lucky with it, where a lot of people got like the real bad flu. I really didn't get that. I had a little body aches and a fever for a couple of days. And the rest of it was all just like I'm still fighting a little bit of a head cold. I got taken out of quarantine basically 2 days ago. And I'm starting to feel a little bit better. But like you said, those lingering effects, a little cough here and there, a little cold, little, congestion. That's pretty much what I'm going through. And lucky, I mean, I've been lucky so far. My wife, she's still fighting it. She's got a lot of body aches, fever going up and down. She's definitely had it worse than me. And, my kids got through it. Thank God. They had it. One had it pretty bad. The other one was okay. Yeah, this just sucks, man. Like no one knows how to fight this thing. People are telling you take these vitamins, take that vitamin, but no one really knows. And now you got the vaccine just started, and now we're gonna see with that. Like who knows what kind of lingering effects the vaccine. I'm not gonna start saying don't take the vaccine, but no one really knows what the side effects of that can be down the road. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, we have someone in my family. He's an older guy. He's my brother's my dad's brother, my uncle. He's in his 70s. He's in a nursing home. He had taken the vaccine, and like that day, he ended up having a stroke.
Oh,
So
shit.
we don't know if it was attributed to the vaccine or if it was just something that came about independently. But it's scary. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, when I got sick initially with it, my wife was sick before me. No doctor will see you. Once you get a positive test, I think I was telling you this,
Yeah.
You can't get any treatment other than going to the emergency room. So, I mean, it sucks because realistically, they tell you to stay home and just take over-the-counter medicine, which I did. I took vitamins. I took specific vitamins that helped me out. But other than that, I think if you're really, like I mentioned to you, if you have some really bad underlying stuff, or if you need extra care, I mean, I think other than going to the emergency room, you're really in a lot of shit,
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, like people aren't seeing you. We had friends of ours. The son was like 18 years old. He got it, 18, 19 years old. And they had to drop him off at the hospital. Like he couldn't
Right.
even, the parents couldn't go in. No one could. It was like, good luck. And he had to sit there for like 4 or 5 hours. They finally tested him and he wound up having it. And then he had to call them, pick them back up. The parents weren't allowed anywhere near the hospital. I mean, I think that's kind of loosened up a little bit now, but it's just like you said, with the vaccine, you know, I don't want to, go down that road of saying that they rushed it, but they kind of did rush. You know, this is whenever you have these things, it usually takes a couple of years of testing to figure this stuff out. And this was, you know, within less than a year, it was like, all right, we're gonna have this, and that's it.
I think there'll be some side effects of it. I don't think it's completely perfected, but
Yeah,
I mean, look, at the end of the day, I mean, they're talking about getting 100 million vaccine dosages out to, the general public by the summer. There's 350 million of us in the country. So you're talking between 25 million who already got it. Now, the 100 that should be vaccinated, they'll probably, I mean, listen, these drug companies aren't going to put these things out, with the intent of hurting people or, really messing up because, at the end of the day, if they're not effective, they're going to get their, get sued pretty badly. So I'm just thinking between herd immunity and between the vaccine dosages, I'm thinking, we should be good by the end of the year, maybe beginning of next, in my opinion.
yeah, that was I think Fauci and the president were both saying by the summertime we should be somewhat normal, as they want to call it. Like, what that's going to mean, I don't know.
Like you said, you don't know what the after effects of,
Yeah.
the vaccine is. You don't know if any different variants come out that we don't know about or can't. So, well, it seems like we're going the right direction, but definitely scary, man.
I mean, like we were talking the other day, man. You knew a couple of people that died from this.
Yeah,
I knew a couple of guys that died from this, and like they both had in common, like you said, a lot of people with the underlying medical issues. This has got to be one of the scariest things in the world. Besides old people with heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, like you were saying, hypertension. This was just killing people, and no one knew.
I think we'll get into it later on, Mike. But the reality of it is, there's also another angle to this. It's the politically correct thing about it. The reality of it is, a lot of these people, and I'm not saying everybody, but a lot of these people that are getting killed by this thing, not to diminish it in any ways, have these underlying things, diabetes, they're overweight, they got high blood pressure. And let's call a spade at this point. The reality of it is, it's obesity. People are fat, man. Look, we're closing in on 50, so I'm granted I put some pounds on since my, my earlier days. Mm-hmm. But I mean, there's people morbidly obese in this country. And I can tell you that, I don't know the statistics, but I would have to bet that leads to diabetes, that leads to the high blood, all that stuff, that you get something like this and your immune system's compromised and you got that going against you, you're finished, man.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Totally. But yeah, like you said, we'll get down the road with that later. Me and you grew up in Astoria. Like we grew up right down the block from each other. And the neighborhood's changed. Like your parents are still there, my parents are still there. But like the neighborhood has changed so much. Like when's the last time you've been back?
Probably over the summer.
Okay. And what did you think of it?
Listen, it's been built up. It's been built up a lot. Yeah. There seems to be a lot younger people, a lot more. Well, it was always diverse, even when we were. But I noticed a lot more buildings. I see even the houses. A lot of the houses are being built up to the point where it's beginning to resemble like parts of like Park Slope, Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Seems a lot more congested. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, traffic. I mean, just with every, like you go down like a Ditmar, you go down Ditmars or something like that, and it's just so built up. And now, because you have the outdoor dining, it just destroyed traffic even more. Like you said, it's amazingly congested.
And I can tell you, when we grew up, though, I think that it's a much safer place than when it was when we grew up. I mean, there was a point in time. I remember when we got together a couple of years ago for the reunion, and there was a point in time, like if you went up to Steinway Street around where the bar that we went to, you wouldn't be caught dead there 2-3 in the morning.
Yeah.
And, when we went there, I felt like I was in the middle of Manhattan. It was lit up. There were people everywhere. I think that's probably a good thing, compared to when we grew up.
Well, yeah. We always talk about, anyone that's older, they all talk about, oh, the good old days, the good old days. The good old days for us growing up in the city, it was like there was 3,000 people a year getting murdered. And like you said, there were certain streets in Astoria you did not go. You didn't go to the end of Astoria Park. Like you didn't go to the other side of that part, you know, like you were
Look,
putting your life in your own hands. Like, good luck, buddy.
I
And
remember when I got to St. John's, like in the early '90s, and I brought some kids, who were from different parts of the country and different parts of New York State, and they stayed at my house. We had some sort of fraternity formal that we had to go to, and I remember driving down 21st Street near Fishbines and like going
yeah,
to Manhattan, and they're like, what is this, man? This is crazy. This is like something out of the movies. And I remember that week where they were staying, there was in front of Sal's house, they, there was yellow tape in front of the guy's house. I guess somebody got shot and murdered.
I remember that. Yeah, the story goes, my parents were telling me, I mean, this had to be like 15 years ago, maybe more. No, 20. Yeah.
Yeah.
The kid got shot, I think, in Astoria Park.
122 up the block.
Yeah. And then ran down to Sal's house.
Right.
And because I remember going to my parents' house that weekend and there was still blood in front of like my parents' house. It was like, I go, what were you painting something? They're like, no, wait till you hear this story. And yeah, the kid knew Sal, who, to paint a picture, Sal's house was basically in between Chris's house and my house. There's about 6 houses that separate us. Sal's house was in the middle. And this guy ran to Sal's house and the kid eventually died. He was a young kid too, like in his 20s or whatever.
So for the audience out there, we're not going to use the last names today, just to respect everybody's privacy. But the guy that we're talking about, as a kid, me and Michael, we lived, a couple of houses apart. He was smack in the middle. That was part of the La Cosa Nostra, let's put it that way. So,
oh yeah.
Make a long story short, when I was really, we were kids, like 10, 15, 12 years old. The woman would come out, shh, Sal sleeping.
Yeah.
Husband sleeping. And, this would go on all the time. She always had like something to say. They had like the middle brother, Eddie, was deaf. And the other guy was involved too, the older brother. And make a long story short, I remember one time, this was actually before you moved in, a whole bunch of cop cars come down the block and they take the guy away. So me and my brother were outside. We're like, where's Sal going? Where's Sal going? My mother and father like, shut up, just go inside. We didn't know anything back then. And then you guys moved in and we goofed on the middle brother. And, it was just weird, Yeah, the guy was completely connected, who knows?
Yeah, nobody messed with him. He was connected because nobody ever like screwed with that house. No one ever gave him like, if you told like someone like, yeah, I got a problem with him on the block, it would just be like, well, too bad. Right. Whatever he wants, you're going to do,
People came in one time, they moved in, they were playing loud music. The wife got really ticked off and went across the street. Can you lower the music? They told her no. And then the following day, their cars were overturned, like on the street.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know if I told you this, but there are people that I grew up with, like you, that like if I tell these stories, and I'm sure there's people out in your audience that are listening to this, either they think you're crazy when we say things like this, or do they think you're lying? And the reality of it is, even though it sounds far-fetched, it may sound like movie-like type stuff. It happened, man. I mean, it's all there.
Yeah, people that like the way a story is like gentrified now, these people have no idea what it was like. Like you said, when we were growing up in that like mid to late 80s, the early 90s, there were times it was like the Wild Wild West, just beatings on the street,
Crazy, man.
Like what Manhattan used to look like. Remember 42nd Street when we were kids?
You didn't go?
Yeah. You didn't go at night. You didn't go at night.
I remember my mother telling me not to go into Times Square. It was all pawn shops and messed up. And you didn't go there. I can tell you, I don't know if you remember around the summertime where me and Michael lived, it was just like, at times it felt like Beirut, around the corner where my uncle lived. That block there was always some sort of fights. There was always some fireworks going off. And in the summer, a lot of people, they had nothing to do. They would stay out in the front and, there was all sorts of mayhem going on, until literally like it got cold in the fall.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was just a crazy time. I mean,
I'll tell you another story, Mike. I think you probably remember this guy. There was a guy, Zamor. Again, no last names, right? And
yeah. That nut job. Yeah.
All right. And, I guess he was the victim of like a really bad beating. And, he would talk to himself. He was a character. Anyways, he got metal plates put in his head because these bunch of guys jumped him and they beat him up pretty good. So one day I'm going to McClancy, I'm going on the bus and I'm going down that street and he stops me and he goes, "I kill everybody." I go, "What are you talking about?" And he had a duffel bag. And he goes, "I kill everybody, Chris. I shoot this whole place up." I go, "Okay, Zamora." It was early. It was like 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, "All right, dude, I understand." And he goes, "No, no, no, you don't get it. I kill everybody in this neighborhood." He goes, "Except you." I go, "Okay, thanks." He goes, "You know why?" And then he opens up the bag and he shows me like literally the guy had AK-47s, all sorts of crazy stuff in his duffel bag. And he goes, "You know why I don't kill you? Sonny. I love Sonny. And Sonny's my and for whatever reason, he left me alone. He never messed with me. And I don't think he ever did anything, but that just goes to show you this guy's walking around with a duffel bag full of assault weapons, in the early 90s, late 80s.
Yeah. That guy was a wingnut. And if he grabbed you, like if he wanted to talk, like, yeah, he would grab everyone and talk to people like that. Like, I don't care. I kill everyone on block. I don't care.
And that's exactly how he sounded to me. I know people probably watching this saying, "No, that's not right. That's not cool." That's exactly how it went down, man. That's exactly how the guy talked.
Yeah, you got to remember too, like in like the 80s, they had a whole purging of like mental institutions.
Yeah,
where they were just being like overcrowded, and they put these people back on the street. And I want to say he was one of them because he lived with like his mother or his father, his parents or whatever. The guy was, I mean, we were teenagers. This guy had to be in like his late 30s, early 40s. He was off his rocker.
We had another family down that same block. We used to call them the Fungus. Remember those guys? There's 9 brothers. They were always in the middle of something, always stealing stuff, always up to no good. Like 4 or 5 sisters, who's pregnant, who's not. They were always in the front. And we called them Fungus because there was like the families just didn't stop growing. It was like 9 one day, 10 another.
I remember them. They had there was a lot of kids in that family, in that house.
Yeah.
I see one of the kids. Last time I saw one of the kids is probably like 15 years ago, like wandering around like 31st Street. Who was the youngest kid? Pete?
Yeah.
I saw him. He's the last one I saw. I asked him about how his family was doing. I know they moved. I think the mom actually passed away.
Okay.
But that was like the last time. They all moved away. I guess they all went their separate ways. And
me and Michael, our families, our mothers hail from the same part of Italy. Well, not Italy's Malta.
Malta. Yeah.
Right? And I think you said something to me a long time ago. You said they had visited Malta, and over there they don't use anybody's real name. It's always Mike down the block. So when me and Michael talk, we have names for everybody. It's kind of like, I guess close to the other side on how they, relate to people. In our neighborhood, we had Tony the Neck. We had, Henry Frame.
I think the Neck is still around.
Sure he is.
I think I saw, he's like weird now because he's like an older guy. He's got like glasses on and stuff. And you're like, because he married a girl.
Yeah.
For a while. He had a kid. His kid's got to be in the 20s by now.
Don't judge us, ladies and gentlemen, but the guy that we were just talking about, Sal's kid, the middle brother, he was deaf, right? And he would communicate. He was a cool guy, but we referred to him as Ubba Ubba because the way the guy would talk or communicate, Ubba Ubba, me sorry, Ubba Ubba. Yeah. It was messed up, but that's the way we referred to people. Nobody really had their right name, and I remember what you said about Malta, and I guess the other side, with Italy and stuff, and how there's no Michael O'Sullivan. There's Michael the cop, or
Yeah, I think too, those like European countries like that where they just use a nickname. I think too, they're all criminals. They don't want to give out their real names. It's like, yeah, Joey Zaza lives over here. Tommy the Neck is down here. They don't want to incriminate anyone. I think that's why there's a lot of nicknames.
I do that to this day. Like at my job, I always use names for the higher ups, my friends, my coworkers. And like you said, it kind of protects you. And it's like, why are you calling this guy Jay-Z? I like the music, the Jay-Z rapper, Meanwhile, I'm talking about, someone in particular that the people around me talking about that if he found out I was talking about, I'd be in some trouble.
Fucking crazy shit, man. Crazy. Like Dude, remember growing up on like Halloween in that neighborhood? That was just, it was like Thunderdome. There were
We
no
haven't.
rules. It was just, ex- every man for himself. It
So
basically got to that point.
Mike's saying, guys, ladies and gentlemen, is that back in the 70s and the 80s, it wasn't everybody. Come Halloween, it was like 2 or 3 days worth of mayhem. So basically, I wouldn't even say 2 or 3 days. It was like a week or two before
Yeah.
Halloween. All sorts of crazy stuff would go down. So basically, it would be egg wars like on Ditmars Boulevard lived, or like the bus where me and Michael took to get to school, to high school. They had like the old style doors that used to open on the bus. And basically what we would do is we'd sit in the back, you'd have eggs, you'd open the side of the bus, the window would fly open in the old days, and you'd start throwing them indiscriminately at people. And I think what Mike said was there was times where, you'd be on Ditmars Boulevard, like around Halloween, and on any given Halloween, there would be 50 kids on one side in front of the doors and 50 kids on another. And Michael said it best. It looked like freaking Braveheart. All you're seeing is like hundreds of eggs flying through the.
Oh, yeah. It was out of control. I mean, like Pizza Palace, that one year just got destroyed. Pizza Palace is this big pizza restaurant in Astoria. It's still around. It's been around probably almost close to 50 years.
It is, man.
And they had just done the outside where they enclosed that glass outside, that like outdoor dining, but it's all glass. And like you said, man, it looked like the arrows from Braveheart flying across the street, and it just destroyed. I mean, just covered in eggs. And this glass enclosure had to be, it's probably like 25 feet long.
Right.
I mean, you couldn't even see out of the glass. That's how bad it was. And then the owner, or whoever he was, the manager guy, came out with the broom and tried to fight like 50 kids. And at first he tried to be diplomatic, and he goes, listen, if you kids get out of here, come back tomorrow. I'll give you a free slice and a Coke, but just get out of here. And then somebody in the crowd just wings him in the face with an egg. And the guy just lost it and started swinging the broom. Everyone ran out. I mean,
listen, I'm not saying it was right, but it was a different time. Today you couldn't even get away with a fraction.
I remember the cops in the 114 when we were kids, like around Halloween, they would drive around with a fire extinguisher. And what they would do, I saw this a couple of times. They'd call a kid over to the car and be like, come here, give me your eggs. They would take the eggs from the kid and then blast them in the face with a fire extinguisher and say, go home.
Yeah.
If you did that today, those two cops would be in jail.
Yeah.
They'd be getting arrested.
Well, you know what it is today, Mike? I mean, we have a friend of ours, right? A mutual friend, again, no names. He's in the mob. And we had a conversation, legitimately in the mob. But the guy, he's a regular guy. He's not rich or anything. And I said to him, why don't you have any money? I go, you connected and stuff. He goes, Chris, the things we did 20 years ago, 25 years ago, you couldn't do today. First of all, the rackets aren't in place. And second of all, the things that we do, like if you owned like a deli and I'm trying to extort you for money, for protection money, you know what you're going to do? You're going to take your cell phone and tape the guy, and you're going to send it to the guy, and he's finished. But you're going to take a video, and I guess the point of the story was, whether you're a police officer, a mob guy, regular Joe Schmo talking to the public on a daily basis in your regular scope of business, things have changed to the point where, with the technology that we have, you can't do a lot of this stuff anymore, right, wrong, different.
Oh, hell yeah. If you wanted to kill someone 30 years ago, you might have had a good shot of getting away with it.
In a way, right.
But now, just holding a phone in your hand is going to make you guilty. You can track that phone any way you want. Every car has a computer in it that can be tracked. I mean, you're done. DNA. Look at DNA. Look at how many people, you have a lot of innocent people too getting out of jail because of DNA evidence. So
see, you were in law enforcement. One of my main businesses at this point is insurance. So I look at Department of Motor Vehicle reports all day. And I get people, they're looking to get insurance. And, I see their real-time driving records, kind of like you guys did in the cars, when you run some. It's not me. You're Michael O'Sullivan. You live in Forest Hills. You're 5'10". You got a speeding ticket last week, Mike. You got a DUI ticket dating back to 2010. No, it's not me. I go, Mike, I'm looking at it. No, 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 no. It doesn't exist. I go, Mike, it's there, man. It's crazy. Like people, they really, they just think it's like 1990, 1985 where they can lie. And, it's just it's a different time, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, like you said, everything's computerized now. Everything is on. Look at this. This show is on record.
Yeah.
This is going to be if someone wanted to rip this apart afterwards and said,
Sure
well, you said this, you said that, I'll take a 10-second clip and turn you into the biggest racist bigot on the planet. I can do that. I can edit it.
And the nice thing with that, Mike, is, my mother always warns me about social media. She's always on me. My father's very leery of it too. And I think I put this on Facebook a couple times. When you see me face to face, I'm not anything I say on social media, whether or a podcast, I'm going to say to your face.
Okay.
Nothing to hide. Some people, I guess, you want to try to twist my words. I stand by everything I say, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or a podcast. I'm a real guy. I've got nothing to hide. And I just think that a lot of times when it comes to these things, people hide behind this stuff. They try to intimidate. They try to bully. And a lot of times they say things they would never say in real life, or.
Oh, yeah. It's real easy to troll someone from 2,000 miles away or from behind a keyboard or your phone, like you said, what is it? Everyone's a tough guy, basically, until they come face to face with somebody.
They get punched in the
until they get punched in the face.
Right.
Because, who is it? Mike Tyson, I think, said that. Like everyone people are saying things that they wouldn't have said 20 years ago to someone's face. But now that they can do it from the anonymity of like a keyboard, it's the easiest thing. I can go on to Mike Tyson right now and just troll him.
Yeah.
And I would never say that to Mike Tyson's face. This guy, the guy would kill you, or these MMA fighters or whoever.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Or on the other end, from a financial standpoint of view, you start, riffing on a really rich guy, he'll litigate you to death and destroy you.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be physical, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot to hurt people.
Yeah. People say, that's the new thing now. Just sue, sue, sue. Speaking of rich guys, one of the main reasons I had you on, explain Robinhood and GameStop to everybody, because most of the people listening are like civil servants and we're not good with money.
That's okay. So I've had many different careers. Right now I'm in insurance. I have a DJ business, DJ Chris Clash. They had, little plug for my business here, but back in the day,
baby.
I had a long, long career as a stockbroker. So I guess from 1994, 95 to like 2007, 2008, right before I started my present job. I was a broker. So I traded stocks and bonds. I made a decent amount of money. I spent a lot of money as well. But to answer your question, so basically what happened, so Robinhood is like a online stock platform where you can basically trade stocks, buy and sell stocks with no commission. So instead of going to your broker or an agent like the old days, you can download the app and you can buy stocks. So in terms of what happened recently, a lot of these stocks like GameStop, AMC, they have what's called short positions. And a short position is when you're betting on a stock to go lower. Okay. So, there's a lot of different entities in the brokerage business. You have like your plain Jane brokerage firms. And then I think I explained this to you in terms of you have these hedge funds. And what these hedge funds are, they're not brokerage firms in the traditional sense, but they invest in all sorts of investments ranging from bonds to stocks. Sometimes they do private loans. They're run usually by, a guy who's well capitalized. Mm-hmm. In this particular circumstance, what they did to these particular stocks like GameStop and AMC, they bet that these stocks were overpriced. So they took positions out that betted that these stocks were going to go lower. So basically on Reddit, which is like a glorified chat room from the 90s, like small investors, guys like you and me, or just regular Joe Schmoes, talking about these stocks and how they wanted to get back at these people for damaging them, making false bets that they think were wrong. So essentially what happened was these guys got together in these little chat rooms on Reddit, and they, I guess, put together their money and they all bought the stock to the point where they drove the stock price up on one stock in particular, GameStop. I think it went from like $150 to $350 a share. So in a nutshell, when you buy a stock, like if you just buy a stock, you buy IBM stock, you buy AT&T stock, let's say you buy 1,000 shares, you're buying that with the understanding that you think the price of the stock is going to go higher. In this case, the rich guys, the suits, whatever you want to call them, the hedge fund guys, they made an opposite investment. They sold the stock with the understanding that they thought the stock was going to go lower. So essentially what happened was these guys in these chat rooms drove the stock to the price where it made it uncomfortable for the guys who were betting on the stocks to go lower. And at some point it became so uncomfortable that it nearly put this one company out of business, this one hedge fund company out of business. I forgot the name of it, but essentially, you know, at some point when you make that kind of bet, when you make that kind of investment, you have to cover the bet.
Yeah.
So the best way I can explain it is the stock's trading at $100 a share. You think it's going to go to zero. So what you do is you sell the stock, kind of like trading places when they're, you know, doing futures.
Yeah.
And I sell the stock and I take the proceeds of the transaction. So let's say, for example, the stock's $100 a share. I think it's going to go to zero. I want to sell short 1,000 shares. So on that level of the transaction, I take the money in and I'm hoping that at some point I can buy back the stock at a lower price and make a profit. In this case, because the stock kept on going higher and higher and higher, and so quickly, these guys, at some point, number one, there's no stock to buy because there's an amount of stock in each publicly traded company. And number two, it got to the point where the losses were ridiculous on paper. So let's say, for example, they shorted the stock at 100. It's now 325. They're down 225 points. So the worst thing that can happen is when you buy stock the regular way and you think it's going to go higher, the worst thing that could happen to you is the stock could go to zero and you lose whatever money that you invest. Well, when you short a stock, you have unlimited exposure because theoretically a stock could continue to go higher. Yeah. So what happened with this was they got into a position where I guess they didn't have enough capital to cover the trade. And your guy from the Mets stepped in to fund them. He gave them $13 billion or some sort of obscene amount of money to keep them afloat. So they closed out the position. And then the next day, Robinhood, where all these little guys were trading stocks, Robinhood turned around and said, you can't buy these stocks anymore. They stopped you from trading. Now, could you have gone to a Charles Schwab or a different brokerage firm and bought the stock? Maybe. But the sheer fact that they restricted and halted trading was completely obscene. That's usually reserved for the SEC. And the SEC is like the police department for Wall Street. So usually what happens is if the SEC suspects that there is fraudulent activity going on in the trading of a stock, or if they feel like there's something not right with, you know, the trading fluctuations, what they'll do is the stock, meaning like nobody can buy the stock. But in this case, the platform for the little guys stopped their ability to buy the stock on that platform for no reason whatsoever. And then they thought it was being manipulated. Now, the conspiracy theory is that they think that they were trying to protect the Steve Cohens and the hedge fund that was affected by the trading in GameStop. And that's it in a nutshell. You know, basically what they were saying is that it's okay for these bigger type firms to take risks with their money, but when it hurts the bigger guys, it's not good for the little guy to do it.
Oh yeah. Because I mean, that's all you've been seeing on TV is this. And I think there was one where they said if you invested 50 grand in GameStop when it started, I think the guy was up to like $20 million.
Yeah, man. I mean,
he had the stock went up. I think it was like 2,000%. They said, if you look at that.
I read a story where a guy put 12 grand in and he walked away with $2 million.
Yeah.
Another guy put 1,500 in. It was worth 30 million. I mean, it was crazy type of, fluctuations in net worth. But, you know, look, you get that on a regular basis, you know, that's much less publicized. The real issue is that you basically had a stock trading platform restrict the ability to buy stock. Yeah. And the optics are, it looks like that they were trying to protect the hedge fund. It looks like they were trying to protect the bigger institutional
Yeah.
investors. And that's not right. You know, the SEC talked about it today, how they're going to investigate the thing, but it's after the fact. I mean, the stock is still 350. There are people that couldn't buy or sell the stock that day. And the reality of it was your guy Cohen stepped in and gave that guy, you know, the other firm a ton of money to keep them afloat, which, you know, why'd you do that, Steve? You know, it's not his firm, right? And then after the fact, he went back and forth with Dave Portnoy from Barstool. And Portnoy basically ripped his ass. He's like, you know what? Boom Esiason said the same thing. He went a little over, but you know, you get the drift. I mean, it's not right what happened. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, as usual, it's like the smaller guy is just getting screwed over, as usual. It just has, like, you know, this game is, you know, the stock game has been manipulated how many times by people like billionaires and everything else, and now you have, oh man, hold on one second. All right. Sorry about that. But you have the billionaires that have been manipulating the system for years. And now this is like it's like a computer hacker. They figured out a way to manipulate the system. These Reddit guys figured out a way to manipulate the system to finally their advantage. And now these guys are now pissed off because they're going to have to pay billions of dollars to
go out of business.
Or go out of business because the stock got driven up so high.
And literally, or even for you, if you don't understand what I'm saying, and listen, I get it, it's complicated, and some, you know, for me to really explain properly, and maybe I'm not doing a good job, but the reality of it is, watch the end of Trading Places. It's the same crap, you know. Trading pork.
Was this also the same thing like that movie, The Big Short, where it was like you're betting on it to fail? You're betting to make money on it to fail, like the housing market. These guys all made like billions off the housing market because they were expecting all those mortgages to go, people to go under with those mortgages, and then they made money off it.
It's a little bit different. I mean, the investment theory is the same. So you had a couple of smart guys that looked at the housing bubble and they said, wait a second, you know, the housing bubble is completely overinflated. You know, you got people who are getting loans for homes that don't or can't afford homes.
Yeah.
And what we're going to do is we're going to bet against it. You know, we're going to bet, you know, we're going to make these investments that bet on the housing market to completely blow up, which is what happened. I don't think there was anything wrong with it. It's the same type of investment that these guys were making with the stocks on the hedge funds.
Yeah.
Really nothing wrong with what those guys did. I mean, they just basically bet on the misery of others is really what they were doing. And even now, you know, the same deal is happening with the stock there. You know, when you bet against the stock, you're betting against the misery of others. You're betting on a company to fail. You know, they thought up was a piece of shit. It shouldn't have been trading at $100, and they shorted the stock. Same deal.
Yeah, they also, what was it, AMC, and I think there was like the 2 or 3 stocks where they just decided, all right, we're gonna pump these stocks up. So
my fear is that though they're gonna clamp down on these groups like Reddit. They're gonna inhibit their ability to talk to one another, which is a really pet peeve of mine. Whether it's, you know, this, religion, politics, whatever, you know, it just, you know, you get into a really slippery slope when you start limiting people's ability to communicate, whether you like the message or not.
Yeah. I mean, technically it's not insider trading, right? It's just 2 people talking. It's just people talking on a public website.
What they're claiming, though, what the SEC is going to investigate, they're going to investigate to see if there was any collusion or any manipulation of the market. And you can't do that. That's something you can't do. Whether you're a hedge fund or you're a regular person, I can't get together with, you know, 20 or 30 people in a group, internet or otherwise, and conspire to manipulate the price of the stock. You can get a lot of trouble. So you can get in trouble for insider trading, for, you know, using knowledge that, you know, only insiders are supposed to. But there's another thing. You can't manipulate the markets, you know, whether you're a hedge fund or a regular investor. That's not something that you can get away with.
Oh, like you said, the SEC is going to investigate, and we'll just see what happens with that. You know.
Yeah.
On a lighter note, what do you think? We were talking about Cobra Kai the other day.
Mhm.
What did you think? What do you think about the show so far? Did you watch the whole season or?
I watched all three of them. I loved
Yeah.
it. I've always been a Karate Kid guy. I think for people today who have, or younger people today, let's put it that way, who have no knowledge of the way it was, I think that show is a really good glimpse into how we lived and how we acted. And guys like Johnny and Kreese, you get their perspective on the show. And I think they do a great job of it. But I think they also give you a little bit of an inside look at how, regular people acted back then without, the restrictions that we have today.
Well,
You know,
yeah,
some,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
some of these things that this guy says, you can't get away with that today. You're going to be branded, you're going to be labeled, in some cases prosecuted. I mean, you just can't get away with it. Even a guy like Johnny, who, to me, he was very empathetic in this show. They showed you his point of view. When we watched it, look, I read Bill Simmons's articles on it. I've watched it. I've, ad nauseum, read pieces on, basically analyzing the first show. And Johnny was described as the white Aryan, California typical bad guy villain from the 80s. And you get a different view. You get a different view into to the psychosis of them. And I thought it was great. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I'm looking forward to the fourth season.
Well, yeah. I mean, you go back to what we were talking about earlier. Guys like Johnny and the Kreese character, they are those old school guys where if you're going to talk shit to their face, they're going to knock you out. And I mean, we saw that throughout the show with them, where Johnny doesn't take any shit. He's constantly fighting people. He's.
What about Kreese? I mean, look, your dad was a Vietnam veteran. I mean, to ignore the fact that what happened and what was portrayed in that show didn't happen, you may not talk about it, but, I'm sure if you talk to your dad, he's probably got stories like that. I mean, granted, it was a TV show, but, let's not sugarcoat stuff. Stuff like that probably did happen.
Yeah, there was a lot of, I mean, the way they go back on it with the 80s is, it's one of the best things they've been done so far. And I liked also the fact this season, they did a lot of throwbacks. I mean, they went back to Karate Kid 2 on this one. And there's also a few throwbacks. If you remember in the first episode, they make a joke, that old internet joke that they say LaRusso is technically the bad guy if you go back and rewatch the movie. And if you see in the beginning,
and he says essentially the same thing. He's like, he wrote a long article, and Bill Simmons is the guy. He's an ESPN guy. He's got a show, I guess, that is now on Spotify. Well, he's a big Karate Kid guy too. And what he said was, I always found it, pretty weird that LaRusso, in the span of 2 movies, got his ass kicked by 2 different groups of kids on 2 different continents. And he goes, the kid had no friends. And essentially what Johnny said, and he kind of elaborated on it, he tried to steal the one guy's girlfriend. And his only friend was a creepy old Japanese janitor. So, I mean, if you really look at it, I mean, there was a lot of weird things about the guy that I guess, today, nobody would really find wrong or issue with. But, I think that the Cobra Kai series, did a good job of saying, hey, look, you know what? LaRusso might have not been in the right completely. And even that last episode, without giving too much away, when the girlfriend came back, Johnny's girlfriend, and, what's her face?
Elizabeth Shue, yeah.
Yeah. She broke it down for him. And, when they were sitting at that table, she was like, she was kind of showing the audience, that was really 2 viewpoints in terms of what happened. It wasn't just LaRusso going out there getting picked on by a bunch of white Aryan kids, getting his ass kicked, learning karate, and getting some sort of redemption. It's showing you the other guy's point of view that, the other guy's got a story too. The other guy had a girlfriend. The other guy, looked
he
at
stole his girlfriend.
Oh, his girlfriend, right?
And then think about this. All right, here's the one thing that still bothers me to the old Karate Kid. Why did he put the hose on him in the bathroom when he's rolling the joints?
Well,
there was no need for that. Like everyone, yeah.
So look, when we grew up, like if you were in a situation where you were being bullied or being bullied, if I was in a situation where I was the bully and I got away from it, my mentor, my Japanese karate guy, beat the crap out of the kids that were torturing me. At that point, I would have taken my chips and gone home. I would have been, okay, great. House money, see you later. I would have left alone. But essentially what she said and what was, laid out in, what you just said, he antagonized the kid.
Yeah.
You know, he's at a party, and all of a sudden you had to go out of your way to pour water on the kid,
Yeah.
smoke a joint in a bathroom stall. And what do you think was going to happen? They already kicked your ass once.
Yeah.
You know, you think they were going to, that kid was just going to walk away and think nothing of it. So yeah, I mean, there's always two sides of it, man. I mean, there's one side, there's the other side, and like she said, there's the truth.
There's
right?
the truth. I always used to say that as a cop, man. And people would tell, I go, listen, there's three sides to every story: your side, my side, and the truth. So, but I think it's a great show. I mean, it looks like next season is going to be Karate Kid 3. They're going to go back and revisit that.
Think about that for a second. So for the people who watched all three movies, so LaRusso gets his ass kicked by two different groups of kids. He had no friends. He stole a guy's girlfriend. In the third movie, this grown-ass man teams up with John Kreese to try to literally destroy this kid's life. I mean, for what?
Yeah.
A grown-ass man, this rich millionaire, you know, came out of nowhere to like literally destroy this kid. I mean, granted, he was 30 years old portraying an 18 or 19-year-old in the movie, but, you know, when you really think about it, I mean, who does that? And what precipitates that kind of...
Well, all right, I'll play devil's advocate then. Then if you look at this last season,
right,
what Kreese did for Terry Silver, it seemed like he would go to the ends of the earth for him without giving it to. So it was like he called them up, and it's like the mafia. If we call you up, boom, I need this done. Get over here now.
But think about, you know, I the impression that I got was, I'll do anything for you, no matter what, because you saved my life.
Yes.
You know, there's a difference between saving somebody's life and then intentionally trying to ruin some 18-year-old life.
Well, I mean, too, you got to remember, too, it's the third movie. They were running out of ideas.
Right.
It was like, how many more people is he going to fight? How many more tournaments does he have to win at this point? Nobody gave a shit. You know, by the third one, no one really gave a shit. The first two were good. You know, it was smart. The second one, let's go to Japan. Let's check everything out. But by the third one, who gave a shit? But
if you have, you know, for fans of yours, you know, who watch the show and like the Karate Kid series, read Bill Simmons' articles. It breaks down a lot better than what I'm explaining in terms of like, you know, Johnny might not have been, LaRusso might not have been the good guy.
There's you could go on YouTube too. I think if you just type in LaRusso was the bully, there's like 3 or 4 videos where they actually break it down. It's the same thing. Yeah. Pouring the water on him. They kept screwing with him. What was it? Remember when they're walking across the quad and he stops him and he gets the teacher to explain history to him as he takes off and he gets stuck with that. When they go into the dojo, I mean, yeah, it really does. It kind of like he keeps like pushing. He's a kid that kept pushing the envelope with them. And
I think it's a job of showing you the opposite view. And I think it shows you a good job how it was, you know, back in the day where one side of view, one type of person isn't always categorized as the wrong type of person or the wrong type of thought. And, you know, in the 80s and, you know, when we were younger in the 70s, even the 90s, that stuff didn't exist. Now it just seems like everything's skewed, man, you know, and I thought that show did a really good job of exposing that and, you know, just showing you, hey, look, there's not only one point of view, you know, whether it's your opinion or the other person's opinion on whatever you're talking about or just in general. I thought it did a really good job. I really enjoyed it. And plus being a music guy, I enjoyed the music, you know.
Yeah, the great 80s. I mean, not to give too much away, but Dee Snider makes an appearance in it. And at the end, it was good. It's a great nostalgic show to watch. That's the best way to describe it. If you grew up in that time and you watch that, it's great.
You know, I'm a DJ, so I do, you know, gigs. I do all sorts of parties and restaurants and bars and weddings and stuff. And I got to be honest with you, whenever I play 80s mixed type music or I filtered into my set, it's good reaction, more so than any other type of music, 60s, 70s, hip hop, rock and roll, alternative, you name it. When I play 80s music, it always evokes some sort of emotion. Maybe it's that we're at that sweet spot in history, you know, kind of like when we were growing up, the 60s with that.
Yeah.
But when I play that type of music, no matter what my audience is, even the kids, like my 14-year-old daughter enjoys that stuff. It's just a lot of it's timeless stuff. And
I'll catch my kids, my daughters especially, even my son. They'll, you know, every now and then you'll catch some like 80s stuff going on, like listening to Motley Crue or something.
Yeah.
Like that. You're like, what are you listening to? I don't even know. But you know what's weird too? The other day, I was in the car and I had on like on the preset, I had like CBS FM.
Sure.
And I mean, for people that don't know, that's the oldie station. And
It
they were,
was.
yeah, and they were playing like Welcome to the Jungle. And it's just like the weirdest thing. Like, this is, I saw these guys in concert in like 1990, and now they're on the oldie station.
So I got a, when you get older, you get a little bit of money, right? So I saw them back when you probably saw them like in 1990. I saw them at the Monsters of Rock. I was lucky enough to go to the 2016 concert at the Meadowlands, right? And a good buddy of mine hooked me up with front row tickets. Like I was like little, like right in front of these guys. I was so close, I could smell the weed coming off them. That's how close. So at some point I was taking pictures of them, right? I got really good pictures of Axl Rose and Slash. And at one point, maybe it was just me, and I got a picture of him doing it. Axl Rose, I thought was like staring right dead in my face. And for a second, I thought about it. And I'm like, wait a second. This guy doesn't like people taking pictures of him. Is this guy going to freaking jump in the audience and kick my, because I'm taking a picture of him? Didn't happen. Everybody else had their cameras and stuff. Really weird. And I got a good picture of it. It's actually a screensaver on one of my laptops. And he's pointing, he's going like that, and he's looking directly at me.
That's cool.
So, but yeah, that stuff is timeless stuff.
One more thing, and then we'll probably wrap this up. Who do you like in the Super Bowl?
Tough. So, I think KC wins it. I really do. There are a couple things that I think are going in favor of Brady and the Bucs. Number one, they're home. Number two, it's Brady. I'm not a big Brady fan. I'm not one of the guys that think he's the greatest of all time. I'm probably in the minority at this point, but I think number one, the Bucs probably have a really good running game. So I think they're going to be able to maybe play ball possession and keep the ball away from them. Number two, Brady is Brady. If he plays anywhere remotely close to what he's capable, he's going to probably keep it close based on that alone. They're home, which, even though there's probably going to be very limited people in the stands, is still somewhat of an advantage. And that defense is pretty good. So I don't think they're going to be able to stop KC, but I think they're going to be able to keep it to the point where, really is going to depend on who makes the turnovers. If they get a couple turnovers against Mahomes and company, they could probably win it. I mean, that's the shot that they have. But I looked at it, I think I talked to you about this. I mean, you got Mahomes, you got the receiver Tyreek, you got Kelsey, you got a lot of offensive weapons. You got Julia, and their defense is nothing to laugh about. Brady makes 3 picks in the second half like he did against the Packers. They're done, man. It'll be a blowout. 14-21, in favor of the Chiefs. But I think it'll be a close game. I think it'll be an entertaining game. I mean, for personal reasons, I hope that the Chiefs win. I have a good friend of mine who's a lifelong Chief fan. I hate Brady. I think that he, throughout the year, has benefited from, a really good coach, a really good defense, a lot of good circumstances. I mean, let's face facts. Idiot Carroll doesn't, throw the ball on 2nd and goal. He loses.
That's one of those. I know what you say, and I think that's the only way Tampa Bay will win this game.
Yeah, something like that.
And I don't think Andy Reid's that dumb.
I think Reid's a very good coach too.
He's been around forever. Good for him last year. He got the ring, but I think that's the only way you can see Tampa Bay pulling this out. Either that or they knock out Mahomes. Like if he gets concussed.
I don't think that'll happen. I just think it'll come down to turnovers. I think if Brady has a really phenomenal game, I mean, win it that way. They could play ball possession like the Giants did against the Bills all those years ago and run the ball.
It's definitely they're going to have to keep the ball out of Mahomes' hands. They have to if they have any chance of winning.
But it's a lot of weapons to shut down, man.
Like you said, it's not like they just have a running game or a passing game.
When you look at them, I mean, they've been down, they've been up, they've won the games. Ways. The reality of it is, whether they win this game or not, they're probably going to be back again. That core is pretty good.
It's a young core, man. It's just like they have, their future is bright, man. They will be around for a while if they keep that team together.
The spread's not too bad either. I think it's 3.5.
Right now.
So, it should be on paper a close game. Like I said, I got buddies my age and your age that they're hardcore Brady fans. They love Brady. They think Brady is like the greatest football, not the greatest quarterback, the greatest ball player of all time. And I'm like, it drives me crazy. It doesn't drive me crazy that a younger kid would say that. Same thing like with LeBron in basketball. But guys that saw Jordan, guys that saw, Montana, we're Giant fans. I just like Montana as much as anybody. Those guys, there's no comparison. You're looking at different eras, easier games. Think about the defenses, the rules that were in place now that weren't in place back then.
We watched, what was it, 86 with Joe Montana just got knocked out in that game.
Yeah, that was 1990. Leonard Marshall.
The 90s, yeah. Leonard Marshall knocks him out, and then what was it? LT runs it back. Pick six.
Well, what happened was he hit him with about 2 or 3 minutes left in the game. So he got knocked out. Young came in. Then they were driving down, and Taylor forced the fumble on Roger Craig with about, I guess, 4 or 5 minutes left. And, it ended up, I think, with them winning on a field goal.
Yeah.
But, I mean, think about it. If those guys played today, I mean, Montana probably would have tacked on another 5 to 10 years on his career.
Yeah.
About his statistics being really, really good, comparable to him. And even Jordan and LeBron, I mean, think about that for a second. I mean, if Jordan played in today's environment with the defenses that they allow them to play versus back then, going up against the Pistons and the Knicks and all those crazy teams and stuff, it'll be interesting, man. But it drives me crazy, Mike. I mean, guys I know love Brady. They just gush over him, and I'm not even taking into consideration the other stuff. You think about it, Spygate, Deflategate. Think about the close games that he won. Think about the games that he lost against the Giants. He had an undefeated team, and he lost to a Giant team that is in the world. Had him dead to right. But he got knocked around, he got pressured, and he lost. And he lost another one, So, look, I'm not taking anything away from him. You can make a really good argument that he's the best of all time. I think the game is going to be tremendously, entertaining at the worst.
Yeah.
I think that they've got a puncher's chance to win, based on what I explained. I think that them being at home gives them a little bit of advantage. And the running game, I think if they can get Fournette, really, taking the ball away from the other side, I think that puts them in a good position too. But I'll tell you what, man, if he chokes up like he did, against the Packers and throws 3 picks,
it's over.
Casey's not going to be so forgiving.
Yeah. Well, on that note, Chris, my brother, thank you very much. What do you want to plug? Plug away right now. DJ Chris Clash. Where can we find you?
So DJ Chris Clash, you can go on the website. It's www.chrisclash.com. I'm available for everything. I've got a regular gig, guys, but I love music. I do everything from weddings to private parties, restaurants, bars. With the pandemic and stuff, I haven't been real busy since last summer. I did a couple block parties around my house, a couple private parties, a prom. But when things are over, listen, all you got to do is just mention Mike, that you're a friend of his. I'll give you a price or a discount. I'll make sure that, it's within your budget, and I'll give you a great show. I can basically do any type of, venue, any type of party or function that you have, ranging from bar mitzvahs to weddings to sweet 16s, proms, regular parties, backyard parties. We'll have a good time. You probably can see a little bit of my videos, and stuff that I have on the website, get a little idea of, in terms of pricing. But like I said, you mentioned Mike's name, I'll take care of you.
All right. Chris, thanks for being on. As always, go to YouTube, like, subscribe, tell your friends. Subscriptions are the key right now. Subscribe to this show.
I guess a great card says on WFAN, tell your friends,
Yeah, that's the big thing, man. It's the algorithm. Help me out with the algorithm. Subscribe. Catch me on, you can tweet at me at Crack House Pod on Twitter, Instagram, the Crack House Podcast _ between the words. And remember, it's Crack House, CRAICHOUSE, Crack House. Chris, thanks again for being on. I'll talk to you soon. Everybody, be good. I hope if you're battling COVID, you get over it like I did. And I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Hey, guys.